go. So again, welcome to the December Boise ITSM Talks meeting. I'm your host and facilitator, Jeff Jensen. Appreciate everybody making the time to be here. And like to start off with thank yous. Appreciate all of you taking time out of what I'm sure is a busy schedule as we're wrapping up the end of the year here and working through toward the Christmas holiday season. So thanks for being here and taking the time. Want to, of course, welcome any of our first timers who are here for the first time, and also welcome the attendees who are outside of the Boise area now that we're virtual and have been virtual for the last few months. It's a great opportunity to have some additional attendance and share some broader experiences. And as this group continues to grow, I definitely want to keep that opportunity going into 2021 to maintain a hybrid approach. Hopefully we'll be at the position as we go into 2021, maybe halfway through or whenever it makes sense to get some of the local folks back together in person again. I definitely miss that. This group, for those of you that are new, has been running now on our 3-year anniversary was last month. So we've been going now for a while, and definitely miss the personal interaction, networking that can go on with that. But it's been great to have the setup and that transition to virtual that we've done the last few months. And it's allowed us to bring in some great guest speakers, but also some additional audience as well. So I'm looking forward to our discussion today. And like I said, having the roundtable as we look at reflecting back on this last year and talk about some of the things we're looking forward to this next year as we transition into 2021. To start off our introduction of our meeting that I always like to do, I like to talk about our why for starting this group. The Boise ITSM group is here to do a couple of things. One is to have discussions and have presentations that provide actionable information. We really look at this group as being a practitioner-driven group. Especially today as we go through having our roundtable discussion, it's great to be able to have interaction and participation, to hear from everyone today, and feel free to ask each other questions too as we work through talking about our high-level agenda, which I'll show here in just a minute. And we're really here to try and drive the ability for all of us to become better leaders in our work life and within our organizations, and to fill the void that we still see in a lot of organizations as far as IT service management and the related frameworks and practices. And now that we can do that again from a virtual perspective and expand on that, it's a great opportunity to be able to drive that opportunity to share and learn from each other. All right. Our agenda for today, like I said, and for hopefully all of you saw on the meetup link, we've got a roundtable discussion that I want to have. And I just threw out some suggested topics for everyone to kind of walk through. We'll have each person in the group just take 5 minutes or so and introduce themselves, talk about who you are, where you work. And then as we get into the roundtable discussion, I really want to talk about some key points here that I've listed. What's impacted you the most this past year as you think back over 2020 and the challenges and the things that we've worked through? Obviously, COVID's going to probably come up for many of you and how we've worked around that, I would suspect. What were your key lessons learned or key takeaways as a result of your ability for yourself and your organization to respond to those things? And then the thing I'm most interested in is then how do we turn the page and transition into this next year? What do you see as the biggest opportunity for you and your organization going into 2021? And I think it'll be a lot of fun to have those discussions and just to network a little bit, to see if there's some commonalities between what everybody has to share, maybe some key points that generate some additional ideas and discussion. So I'm not going to structure this super tight. I really want it to be pretty free form and just to take those opportunities to have everybody share. So I'm going to actually go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Hopefully everybody's got a sense of what we're looking to talk about, and that will give us the opportunity again to, hopefully for most of us, we can come on camera and just have it be a little bit more of a discussion. So let me go ahead and bring everybody back. And again, if you have the ability to come off camera and just share your picture or your screen, that would be great. And I'm just going to go ahead and start based on who I see first on my screen to start us off. And Joe Macaluso, that's you. So Joe, please go ahead and introduce yourself and go ahead and get us started, please.
Sure. So yeah, I'm Joe Macaluso. I am based out of Denver, Colorado. I work for Pearson Education, and I am director level working for a portfolio management team. I'm essentially a scrum master for that portfolio management team. The team I work on owns a collection of digital textbooks, essentially. If you know who Pearson is, we sell textbooks, and we're moving increasingly online. In fact, I just got off a call today to celebrate hitting our goal of shifting our business to digital. So when you talk about impact, greatest impact of this year, the elephant in the room, COVID, is obvious. When we think about it from the perspective of education industry, where I am in, this absolutely accelerated our move to digital in a very unexpected and interesting way, in the sense that we already knew we had to get there, but a lot of institutions and the market itself are dependent on textbooks. There's a lot of instructors and institutions that don't want to make that move to digital. They enjoy the hard copy of things. They're traditionalists in that sense. And this circumstance, the pandemic, forced their hand, essentially. It forced the market to change. And so we had to immediately change and pivot around our priorities and our backlogs to accommodate that, which was fantastic. The second thing that impacted me the most was our organization also went through a major philosophical shift in terms of its ways of working. We were trying to perform a digital transformation into the scaled agile framework way of working over the last couple of years. And we had a new leadership team come in who was violently opposed to that way of thinking and decided to change our direction altogether. So we had compounding external factors as well as this internal way in terms of how we operate, change altogether how we think about the way we do our business. And so when you consider that, the things I'm excited about for next year is sort of taking advantage of the circumstance in terms of we're no longer following, quote unquote, the scaled agile way of thinking. But when you consider what we all know and love about DevOps and Agile and Lean, and I could go on and on about what we like, those principles are true no matter what bow you put on it. And so I'm excited to experiment with thinking about our backlog and our portfolio and our operations in terms of the customer journey and how we can orient ourselves around what particular things we work on specifically for the sake of addressing that experience and improving that. And my hypothesis is that if we experiment and are successful with that, we should be able to take advantage of this opportunity relative to our competitors and maybe turn out better than we would have otherwise. And so that's enough of my rambling. I think I tried to satisfy the questions there, Jeff. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, no, thanks for starting us off, Joe. And I definitely think the customer journey mapping and that focus on that perspective is something we're seeing trending more and more in a lot of organizations. So that's some great insight and a great place to start. And we'll definitely come back and explore some of that more with you as we go through. Thanks. Okay, next on my screen, I have Jay. Jay, if you'd be willing to go ahead and start us off next, please.
Sure. My name is Jay Rimley. This is the second time I've joined. I took an early retirement package from HP. I'm based here in Boise. Took an early retirement package from HP and wanted to do a sabbatical just to reorient myself, get a few personal things taken care of and realigned. And so the last 4 years at HP, I worked in a big data group in the LaserJet business where we were ingesting telemetry data from LaserJets. And I built an application that was trying to interpret that data to figure out the volume of pages people printed and if they were using genuine HP cartridges or not, or if they were using counterfeits or whatever. And so I was in between the onboarding, the IT folks and the business. So I kind of filled that middle gap. Previous to that, I was in supply chain and operations and all kind of domain or I have a lot of domain knowledge in the LaserJet business and supply chain and inventory management and all that stuff. But then one of my managers tapped me on the shoulder from a previous job and said, "Hey, you want to try this big data stuff?" And actually, it was one of the most enjoyable jobs I had. And then they did the early retirement thing, and since then I've been trying to expand my horizons, and kind of in the theme of Pearson, I've been on LinkedIn and reading a lot of books and training, just to sharpening my SQL and Pythons and DevOps skills and design techniques, as well as looking at other things. We used AWS environment when I was at HP. So I've been looking at Azure and some of the other visualization tools and that kind of thing. And to be quite honest, it's been a little rough sledding. I took the sabbatical and then COVID hit, and then everybody's been a little gun shy. And I think I'm a little overqualified in terms of, well, I'm too old. So people don't want to pay what they think I should get. So it's been a little rough sledding, but I'm still looking for a next gig because I really enjoy this stuff. I think, well, I've been talking to one recruiter, and they seem to think that things seem to get a little better at the first of the year. So we'll see. But yeah. So that's my story, and I think I covered all the questions. I do think remote has been a big impact. People are able to remotely work now, and that works for me. I'm very used to that, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Jay, and some definitely a lot of what I know of a lot of other people going through with the impacts of COVID. And I think back to when I went on a similar journey where I took a package and a sabbatical, so to speak, from my first employer. It was right in the middle of 2008 when things
Ouch.
when things kind of took a dive, and took me a while to get back on my feet again too. So definitely hang in there, and I'm glad you're here. Thanks for sharing.
You bet.
All right, awesome. Trevor, I've got you next on my screen. If you'd be willing to go ahead next, please.
Sure. My name's Trevor Perks. I'm a regional director of professional services for a company called Acela that specializes in software for the government sector, primarily state and local government. Previously, I was employed with Ivanti, known ITSM vendor, and many years from that, I was also working with Jeff and James on this WebEx or Zoom. My past year has been very interesting. I've actually transitioned away from a company that I've known for a very long time and that has many different abilities for IT, and I'm now learning a whole new set of customers and trying to understand their motivations. Partly why I'm here is to learn from those of you that are on this call, what you're facing, what you're dealing with, the problems, and how those may apply to some of the situations that my consultants and project managers are facing here in the Western United States. It's been a very interesting ride for sure. The public sector seems to have benefited from some of the CARES funding and has allowed them to grow their businesses or organizations, depending on how you look at it. But in addition to that, I've watched a lot of IT groups in the last year really struggle to make changes. And so the need for things like ITIL and structure are important. I believe also watching these companies do this quickly has pressed for a lot of different transformational type projects. And it's been amazing to watch organizations execute on those. And it's been a little heartbreaking to watch some of them not be able to succeed as well as others. In addition to that, future growth going into 2021 is going to be very interesting, I think, for a lot of different vendors. There's going to be a tremendous amount of need for collaboration structure, especially in a remote workforce when you can't just go and walk over and resolve issues with somebody in the office. So I'm partly here just to observe, support Jeff, and hopefully learn some things.
Excellent. Thanks for being here, Trevor. And I agree. You've shifting things midstream throughout the year like you have, and I definitely am interested to have you even share more with the group from your perspective too, dealing with the new set of circumstances, new ecosystem, new customer base, different focuses, right? There's a lot in that, you know, contextually, there's probably things you can carry forward with, but a lot of things as well that have changed and that are going to generate new challenges and opportunities for this next year. So I'm glad you're on board and glad you're here, and hope you can continue to be here with us.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. All right, Michael Case, good to see you. It's been a little while since you and I've had a chance to connect, so I'm glad you're here. And
yeah.
Go ahead, please.
So can you hear me okay? I
can.
just switched from the work computer to a laptop because that doesn't have a webcam and stuff. So I met Jeff. I'm relatively new to the group. I met Jeff. We met like last year in 2019, I think, through a mutual friend. We had lunch and stuff, and then Jeff was doing his ITIL 4 courses, and so I had him come to Blue Cross and do a foundations course, like a private course, and then that was great. So he did a really good job. So thank you for coming. Unfortunately, my idea didn't spawn as planned, so it kind of just got put on pause while everything else happened around us. But anyway, my name is Michael Case. I work at Blue Cross of Idaho. I'm a manager. I manage the service desk and then also the ServiceNow support team. So and we own the incident management process and the change management process, and as well as the CMDB. So kind of right in the heart of service management, right? And so my kind of motivation to come to this meeting or attend or what have you is we basically use ServiceNow as a ticketing system, kind of the catalog feature. Most of our applications are catalog based. We've greatly expanded the utilization of it throughout the enterprise and kind of relicensed it and kind of repositioned it. And so we're moving towards service management. Like I said, we have a CMDB and we have a project to improve that and raise our maturity level. And so I'm just trying to keep up, improve things, keep my skills up, learn. So this meeting I've attended more consistently because you've been online. So thank you, because it's really hard to break away to travel downtown Boise and stuff for an hour in the middle of the day. So to answer the questions, what impacted me the most? That's super easy. So that is the COVID, right? Managing the service desk, that means I have all the field techs. There was a decision, I think it was like one department. So it was kind of this slow roll with COVID until it wasn't, right? If you guys remember, we knew it was in the news in January, February, and March. There were kind of some rumblings, and they were starting, the health department was publishing notifications, and it was getting closer. And by this time it was in the States. I think there was maybe one case in Ketchum, and then that spawned a multitude of cases. Anyway, towards the end of March, or maybe more, starting of April, we were getting more and more cases. Basically, one department needed to go home. And then so they called me on a Saturday and said, we're going to send this batch of new people home. It's like 25 people. There might be more. So then we made arrangements for them to come in Sunday and get equipment. And that turned out to be like 60 people. That snowballed into 455 people by Thursday. And so it was basically my team. Luckily, Blue Cross is very more by chance and luck than planning. But we are 99% virtualized. And so you can really work anywhere. All the compute processing is done. We really don't need a VPN client. Our software, you can download we use VMware View, and you can download that and just run it kind of anywhere, iPads, Mac OS X, Windows, whatever, right? So we were just like, okay, go home. The campus is closed. We had departments that had literally never done teleworking. So IT, no big deal. Everybody's like, whatever. This is a non-plus, right? And then these other departments are like, we don't even know where to start. And so without missing a beat, we were able to kind of pivot, help all those people out. Me and my team stayed on campus for another couple of weeks, and then I eventually started going home. That was definitely the biggest impact. And I'm just reading over here because I didn't email that to myself. So key lessons learned, just be prepared. Be like a Boy Scout, always be prepared. Have a backup plan to your backup plan. And that's really it for me. And then biggest opportunity, I think, is service management and that CMDB. I think of it as like the hub that all the other services are built around. We've reached out to one team and the batch processing team, because they use this on-call application. And so they had to notify people. So we went from an on-call application that was built within BCI, kind of old HTML web page, to something provided by another company, outside company, that does notifications, mass notifications. And so really cool, integrated into ServiceNow, really slick. So we gave them access to a table in ServiceNow. They own their own stuff, their own jobs. So now when there's a critical batch job failure, depending on the configuration item, they can type that in there, hit go, and it auto notifies the team who's responsible. So that's like super slick. It's kind of like, that's like far out for Blue Cross. We're kind of like steady she goes. So this is like the future now, right? So very cutting edge, right? So I'm all excited about it. It's like, you guys are like, whatever, that's been around for years, right? But not so much for us. And so, but that has kind of just like my example with teleworking, that is snowballing into this larger effort around, the CMDB and service management. I think I see a really big opportunity. I know there's some interest from a couple people, myself and two other leaders, three, that want to do another course with Jeff. So we want to continue to upgrade our skills. That's why I keep coming to this. Like I said, to learn, to listen, to support Jeff. That's basically, did I answer all the questions? I think I got them all. I feel like I've been talking a long time, so
you're good. And I was just noticing, I had a couple of chats come in while you were talking, Michael, while Trevor was talking. A couple of people have had to like jump off, so lost a couple of people. So
I saw that it was like Trevor got up and left.
He stepped away, for a second. But we had a couple other folks on that sent me PMs and had to jump away. So we've got a little more time for everybody now, which is I guess the good thing with losing a couple of people. I don't know if they had operational issues or what came up, but we lost 3 of our attendees that were here. So
gotcha.
No worries. Good synopsis, and it's interesting.
Oh, I forgot I had an appointment anywhere but here.
Thanks for that, Michael. That was really good. And it's interesting to reflect back on just the cultural impacts. Like you said, IT is pretty good and pretty used to dealing with working virtually and working remotely, but if the rest of your folks aren't, support required. And like you said, just the be prepared message, I think, is a really good one, right? There's behavioral and cultural aspects of making that transition. And especially, you can drill, you can do continuity exercises and all those things, but it's a different story when reality really strikes around some of those things.
Our DR is pretty mature at this point, but our BCP, business continuity, is really immature. They just brought a guy in a year or two ago to kind of help stand that up, and this was their first trial by fire. And I think it's one of those, business continuity is one of those things, or disaster recovery, whatever. It's one of those things that everybody needs. You really need to have it nailed down, and you should do training and exercises and testing or whatever practice. But it's nothing, you don't think about it. It's relegated to the bin, right? Like, it's underfunded. There's like one full-time guy and maybe a part-time person that do it. You know what I mean? And as a leader, we have to come up with our plan, and I write some documentation or fill out a template, send it in. I'm done for a year. Who cares? Whatever. Except, right? Like something like this, you don't anticipate. I don't think there's any way to anticipate it unless you've lived through it, right? But totally really helps to have a plan. I know some companies, I talked to a coworker who used to work at Blue Cross, he's at Idaho Power now. They were trying to get laptops. They had no teleworking and they couldn't source anything. I had ordered laptops back in December or January of 2018. And because of supply lines, I got them like in June. And I ordered, a fairly large quantity, right, just for our stock and stuff. But yeah, everything got gnarly. So, yep, be prepared.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a friend who runs a local business that does supplying of hardware and laptops and stuff, and he said he went crazy, and he had the same issues. Just he was able to supply some things, but he also had a lot of supply chain issues and things like that. So
I used to be able to get MiFis from Verizon next day. I couldn't get them for weeks. We ran out of our like loaner pool, right? Just and so it was basically like, well, the company will just give you a stipend, or you can get reimbursed or whatever. Just use your phone if you don't have anything else or whatever as a hotspot.
Yeah, very good. Well, thanks for sharing that, and we'll come back to a couple of those things as we continue forward here with the meeting. James Williamson, I have you next on my screen. Go ahead, please.
Sir. All right, I'll put my camera on. I find.
There you go.
Yeah, so my name is James Williamson, as he was saying. I'm an IT consultant here in the Boise area. I mainly do software management tools like Easy Vista, but I have done Jira, ServiceNow, those kind of stuff, and I consult for them. What I mean is I train, I provide recommendations, whatever it may be, the circumstance or the deliverable, if you will. And we've also gotten Jeff here involved with us to help with some process improvement efforts, depending on the situation. So yeah, I've been doing that for the last 5 years, was working at the place where Jeff was prior. Big thing about this, just to kind of keep it to the now, big thing about 2020 that was impactful for at least my area, wasn't so much the remote work, where we were already doing that. It was the travel part. We used to travel to our clients, and we work with people from anywhere from the East Coast to the West Coast, up in the Great North, if you will. So, the big face-to-face was our impact. So learning how to transition to that, get people more used to the fact that they're not going to train in person anymore. And you all brought up, the struggles that you had with the remote and, not being able to be there in person, and those things. We had to transition our clients and had to go through that. So that was a learning curve, if you will, for their end. And so we had to but we had to transition the way, or adapt the way we train people, because in person's way different than it is remotely, as Jeff would probably know very well. And it got to the point where we had to reduce the amount of time and things like that, on at least per day, because trying to train people for 8 hours a day, you didn't have their attention when it was remote. When you were in person, it was easier. You could interact, you could do labs, you could do, all the fun stuff, but nowadays it's not as easy. So those have been big transition, at least in the training world. There's probably a lot of other examples I could give. But yeah, but most of our clients are getting there. I think the biggest, now going away from our struggles to our benefits of this, is the fact that the technology that we consult for, that, all the chat bots, the service management tools I've been hearing, have been ramping up more. People have decided, well, it's time to start spending the money, because it makes sense now, because we have to. And I know the "have to" is a very heavy word, but it's true. Their hand was forced. And so in a way, it was beneficial to us, because we got to, well, we haven't looked back. We've been busy ever since. I mean, to the point where we've, are wearing thin and had to get more resources, including Jeff. So yeah, it's been an interesting 2020, both, struggles and both benefits, but I think from the most part, we're getting forward, and I think people are going in the right direction from my observation. So.
Yeah, thanks, James. And I think, there's a larger trend that I think this year is going to result in as we go into next year, that we can talk about a little bit more, but really that idea of the perception of IT and how we need to be more integrated. Michael talking about the whole situation with, getting people just to be able to be set up to work remotely successfully. The way that IT integrates and how our tool sets can be used from a broader and more enterprise perspective. Enterprise service management is definitely one of the big industry trends I'm seeing, where we can apply some of those practices to the larger organization, and not just within looking at IT as a service provider internally. I think is another area that I think there's opportunities for what you're doing to expand pretty dramatically in this next year. And so it's going to be interesting to see how some of that goes too.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, Jeff. It's definitely been transitioning in what we, you and I, back when we were at Power, trying to, talk to most people and spread, talk ITIL, it was very IT centric back then, and very, it was just because it had IT in the name, not a lot of people thought the benefits, saw the benefits, all that nice stuff. Now I'm seeing a trend where it's not IT that wants this stuff. We're seeing HR departments, we're seeing finance departments, legal departments. And so it's definitely, I think, from an organizational standpoint, starting to get more adopted, which is it's a good trend. It's good to see that it's finally being seen as a benefit. So
yeah, definitely agree. Yeah, great. Well, I appreciate all of your inputs. I'll go real quick and just share a few of my experiences from this last year. I think for those of you that don't know, I own my own consulting and training business. I've been running now going into my 4th year here in 2021, and it's been really an interesting transition year. I started out my business thinking I would do mostly training and teach classes, and it quickly turned into the opposite of that, where I was spending almost all of my time doing consulting work, and the training was just ancillary to that as part of helping organizations move forward. Especially from a more strategic perspective, the training was just there to kind of help move things and built that subject matter expertise and that capability inside of organizations. 2020, and especially when COVID hit, my consulting business, and some of this had to do with my ability to travel as well, really slowed way down. And so it was kind of a flip where I started doing a lot more actual teaching of classes. And as we've seen ITIL 4 ramp up from foundation level in February of 2019 to the intermediate levels of the managing professional come in at the end of 2019 and into 2020, I was able to not only divert my focus from consulting to training and keeping things going that way in teaching more classes. I did the managing professional transition, which basically allows me to teach all the classes that were there on that managing professional side anyway, but I said, I've got time. Why don't I go ahead and invest in myself and take those deeper dives into each of those individual classes anyway? Not that I needed to do it to teach, but just so that I could have that additional exposure and dig a little bit deeper, which the individual classes give you. And so I think that was a really good investment of my time just to help me continue to be able to do what I do better from both a training and a consulting perspective. ITSM Academy, who's my courseware provider and my partner in teaching the classes, was really happy that I freed up because they had me teach classes for them as a contract trainer, which I hadn't really done hardly any of prior to this year. So I think that was good. And then the final thing, which I think a couple of you know, that was really a nice thing for me, and I'm really grateful for this last year when I think back, is I was able to meet David Cannon. And for those of you that were here, saw the presentation that we did when we kicked things back off virtually in September, he's one of the lead editors of the new ITIL 4 Digital and IT Strategy publication. And I got a chance to meet him in person last year in Orlando at the Service Management World Conference. He and I really hit it off, shared a lot of the same thinking and philosophy. And so I was able to work with him, even though they'd already kicked off the authoring team and I wasn't officially part of the group working on the publication for digital and IT strategy. I still was able to work to help edit and review content and provide feedback. And then I actually ended up authoring a few sections that made it into the final publication of that book that got released in October. So for me, that was a really nice motivating thing to keep me going through some of the tougher times through this last year as things kind of slowed down, to have that positive aspect of things going on. And so that was really nice. And then I was able to actually be selected to be a speaker at the conference for Service Management World that was virtual here this last month in November. So some positive things, even though it was a struggle and a little bit of a tougher year from a business standpoint. It was really nice to be able to invest in myself and have some of these broader opportunities. If I was just busy full-time consulting, maybe I wouldn't even had time to consider them or focus on them as much. So I'm really excited about 2021 and where I see some of the trends going. I still think the ramp up curve for ITIL 4 is just getting started with a lot of organizations. And it'll be interesting to hear some of your feedback with regard to where you see some of the trends from a service management perspective. Framework alignment is a big part of that. I see value stream mapping, and as Joe mentioned, customer journey mapping really becoming bigger opportunities to have organizational impact, especially outside of IT, not just within IT. So I'm excited about the opportunities that some of those pieces bring to the table, and looking forward to turning the page on this year and being able to, I've done all the ITIL stuff I can do right now. I've done all the classes. I can't spend my time doing that anymore. So now I've got to get back inside of organizations and try and help them out, and looking forward to having the opportunities to do that. So I see we had a late joiner. I knew that she was going to try and make it in here and might show up a little bit late because she had a meeting. So Joni, hi. See that you made it in?
Yes, I am. Great.
So welcome. What we're doing, Joni, and if you want to participate in this, I don't mean to put you on the spot here just as you're joining in, but what we're doing is we're just doing a roundtable and talking about what was our biggest lesson learned and takeaway in 2020, and what do you see moving forward for yourself and for your organization, and what you're working on that you're looking forward to as we go into 2021. If you wouldn't mind talking about a few of those things. And if you can come on camera, there you go, there she is. I was gonna say, it'd be great to have you do that with all of us.
Yeah, 2021, well, let's hope COVID goes away. Outside of that, from an IT perspective, you know, I've worked
Joni,
with,
just real quick, sorry, I mean, just go ahead and introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do, and some of that before you get into sharing.
oh, who am I? Who am I? So I am, previously I was a BA, I've worn many, many hats. I have worked my way up through the ITIL food chain, starting out as just a regular help desk person, and then I've worked my way all the way up through into the management end of it. So I've worn many different hats in the ITIL world. Currently, I'm a change manager. I'm writing change management process. I'm doing a complete uplift via ServiceNow in change management, and writing and helping with the overall process management of it. So it's been a huge uplift for the company I'm currently working with, and lots of different changes for them. We just went through another version update in the tool itself, and so that caused a little bit of headache here and there. And so it's just kind of looking at who needs to be the approver, what are the processes, what are the policies that has to happen behind the scenes. And so it's drafting all of those documents, as well as showing them, you know, the ropes and the process and the tools and how to use the tool sets. And then bringing some sense of accomplishment. You know, starting at, you know, it goes back to the whole organizational change. When you're talking about any type of uplift, you're looking at where we're at now, or how we're going to get there. Once you start down that path, you know, you're going to circle back around to did we get there, and how we're going to keep the continual improvement going. So lots and lots to go on from there. But I mean, I could talk to you all day about everything that I'm involved in and engaged in. One of the other things, and Jeff will tell you, I'm a big policy and process person. I believe that you have to have some semblance of sanity for people to proceed and go forward, even in this day and age of everybody moving faster, quicker, better. You know, a lot of people think of change management or change enablement, as ITIL 4 calls it now, as the horrible gatekeeper, the one that we're just blocking, we're just out there to block everybody's changes. And that's not the case. You know, I work really hard with the teams that I'm engaged in right now, and engaged with the different aspects of what needs to happen in the background. And one of the things that needs to happen in the background is the consideration of DevOps and how to keep them rolling and going. And so we've actually created a separate workflow that will feed into change management for DevOps and agile management. So lots to go on there. Back to you, Jeff.
Yeah, just real quick kind of follow up, Joni. Is there anything in specific that you're thinking about with regard to 2021 that you see that you're focusing on or wanting to see happen, or that you see as an opportunity?
Right now, you know, boy, that's a tough question. Everything's kind of up in the air. 2021 is just the continual improvement, looking at where we're at and just continually, you know, revisiting and improving not only myself from a professional standpoint, but also anyone I'm working with or have the opportunity to engage with across the board. And how do these things tie together? Because the one thing that I've seen throughout my entire career is the continual siloing. And even in this world of building it better, faster, quicker, we still see the silos, and we want to break down those silos so that we can actually continue to build it quicker, better, faster, you know? So I'd really like to focus on the continual improvement. That's the big one.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, very good. Thanks for that, Joni.
Mhm.
I want to take it back around the horn real quick and just give everybody another chance to participate and think about what, you know, taking into consideration what everybody has reported out on and shared and some of the things that they've seen looking back at this last year and looking forward into next year. Kind of curious to know what everybody sees as maybe from an individual or a personal development standpoint, or just an area of interest or an area of focus, or maybe something that they even see as a trend in the industry that they'd like to maybe think about or pursue or learn more about. And it can be ITSM related, or it can be completely non-related to that. It could be something business, it could be something, a new technology that you're interested in learning more about or want to integrate. Just curious to kind of see where everybody's thinking is from that perspective. So I'll go around again. Joe, I'll start with you. What's out there that you're interested in learning more about?
Sure. So I'm really, the world I'm in is about taking a broad market strategy and cascading that strategy down to, I think there's several hundred folks who work for the benefit of the portfolio that I work under. And so the thing that I'm really excited about learning is how to take and cascade this idea of a customer journey is the overall strategy of an organization, and using the concept of user journey maps and I should say user journeys and user story maps, and breaking that down into ways to not only cascade requirements and an understanding of the market and the change that we need to put in there, but also as a means to cascade the metrics and the feedback loop that's necessary to tie that all together. And so over the last several months, thanks to our friend Jeff here, I am now one class away from completing both the strategic leader and managing professional in the ITIL 4 realm. And next year I'll complete all of that. And it's all about the application of that now. It's about taking the abstract and finding opportunities within our current situation to apply those concepts. And Joni hit on pretty emphatically the concept of the continuous improvement model. And so tying all of this stuff together and trying to make it all dance in 2021 is sort of the objective I have next year.
Yeah, terrific. Thanks, Joe. Jay, how about you? What are you excited about wanting to take on and learn, especially as you're in a kind of a transition period now? Is there anything that's piquing your interest or getting you thinking or excited about learning more about?
Well, it's been interesting. So when you look at some of these job postings and you look at some of the technologies that seem to be popular. So I've been chasing some of those just to learn more about them. The ones that I'm digging into right now are Docker and Kubernetes. I'm still, I've used them before in more of a macro scale. I didn't architect it, but I was using those. So I'm looking to learn a little bit more of how those things work. I'm a little old school in terms of I kind of stick with Python and SQL. I've been I don't know if the context of this forum is really what fits here, but anyway, so those are the things that have kind of piqued my interest. I enjoy learning. I've taken like 130 LinkedIn classes. So, and those are fun. I enjoy learning that way. And I like to hear Joe and you talk about the whole training aspect of online, because that's the one way to do it. I find too that I do well with books as well. So it's just how different people learn and absorb and that type of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing on that. and it definitely fits in, right? I kind of think about my role being more process focused and more strategic and managerial, but the technical aspects and how quickly those things are changing, I feel like that's a gap that I need to spend more time on, is thinking about making sure, at least I don't need to know how to program necessarily anymore, but I need to know more about how these different DevOps tools and integrations and all those pieces fit together more than I do. So that's
Yeah.
actually on my list of things to focus on this next year.
And there's so many of them, and so I'll take a class just to figure out what they do and what the and you know what, don't know what's really popular or what, but you look at some of these recs and they go, and I'm going, there's nobody on the planet that can do this, you know, and you just go, really? So I try not to get too not down on myself, but it's kind of a balance where you're admitting that you don't know something when you go learn something. So whenever you're admitting, because you know, us as technical people, we kind of are proud of what we know, right? And that's what people pay us for. And then when you have to admit that you don't know something and you got to go learn more, kind of an interesting thing to think about. Anyway.
Yeah, agree. That's great.
And I am getting a curtain in the back. Sorry for the bright light, but we've got those ordered.
Yeah, thanks, Jay.
I would think
That's good.
that's a good idea of yours, Jeff, because it would be very easy for you to like climb into academia, right, and just kind of stay there and teach and stuff. I think your consulting will probably keep you grounded and based in strategy and where to go. So I think that's really good, smart of you to do that. And Jay, if you know a lot of Python and SQL, I would think you'd want to investigate Kubernetes is more like, isn't that more like DevOps and infrastructure? Are you more interested in that versus like big data or machine learning or artificial? Because Julia and Python are like fantastic, highly sought after languages for that domain. I would think that you would have little. I mean, I don't know if you can get what you want for pay, but I'm sure you could find tons of jobs in that area.
Yeah, I'm trying. So I never did. Well, I've taken several classes on machine learning and that type of stuff, and have a pretty good grasp of the concept. And I'm kind of a generalist, a little bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. I won't say that I'm a great programmer.
Gotcha.
More of an architect, a system thinker type.
Yeah.
And so I have spent time just trying to understand where these pieces fit together.
Gotcha.
And yeah, I don't know. It's been kind of tough in that regard.
Right.
You know, I don't know what the issue is, but it's fun learning, and I keep at it because it's fun.
Yeah.
And something will pop up.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
And it's not like I'm going hungry here. HP
Right.
took care of me. I'm doing fine.
That's good.
That's good.
We have you know, from the other side of the problem, we have people continually jumping ship. They're scrum masters and product owners and site reliability engineers, SREs. So basically DevOps stuff, right? We get them and then we're outbid. Somebody else is paying well, I'm not going to go into amounts, but I mean, they're just ridiculous offers. And then like we counter, like they get an offer, we counter, and then they get a counter to our counter. And you just can't hold on to the good employees. Are just there's plenty of jobs in that very specific area, it seems like, and it seems to be hard to hold on to people. And we have a hiring because of COVID. The executives are kind of expecting a really rough 2021 and 2022. We had a good year this year for membership and our goals and stuff, but next year they're expecting, you know, high claimant people to come in, just escalation, right? All this pent up care that hasn't been paid for. And we don't know about the vaccine and these other things. And so there's a lot of incredible amount of uncertainty. And so we can bring in temps or contracted contingent employees, but they won't hire FTEs. And that's really hard to keep somebody, hey, I promise there's a job somewhere in 2021, you know, if you can hang on, especially when they have a sought after skill set, you know, and they're just getting snapped up. There's a couple other, obviously quite a few large enterprises here. And then there's some startups in the Valley that are snagging people too. So.
Oh. And that's one of the reasons I joined this group, just as to network, because I was kind of living in an HP cocoon
Bubble.
for a long time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that other side of the coin, Michael, because that's a great point. So good. Trevor, anything you want to add from an individual or organizational perspective that you're looking forward to learning more about or digging into this next year?
Yeah, certainly. I think one of the big things that I've seen a huge trend in the last few years, and want to uncover more with it, is this ability to leverage ITSM and the tools to bring more of the business closer to IT and technology. I think the challenge for a lot of IT folks is to really put the technology aside and abstract away the business process and how that can be, how the technology can help enable that process to gain a competitive edge or to optimize an imperfect process, those types of things. And I'm really interested in learning how people are having those conversations where they have to bridge technology with that business process that in a lot of cases, most IT people haven't really taken the time to learn or understand. You know, they get down in the weeds, they play with the technical candy, as I like to call it. You know, oh, this is cool stuff, but not really, you know, thinking of abstract ways that it can benefit the business as a whole. And so those are the conversations and things that I'm looking forward to learning more about, how to approach, how to learn, and then also how to persuade too.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things I'm dealing with right now is a situation where there is this entity that has a good understanding of what their business process is. They're processing roughly $1.9 billion in revenue that comes in. So they obviously they must have a good process, but they're not understanding the technology to help enable that and what that means and what's being asked of them. A good example is test scripts to validate the system, and being able to articulate to non-technical folks what a test script is and what it is not, and why the IT people shouldn't be writing them, is a interesting challenge. And you know, so conversations like that really are the things I'm looking to learn more from and how to approach.
Yeah, I think, Trevor, that would be an excellent topic to bring into one of our future monthly meetings, is to dig into that in more detail. And one of the things I want to say is we're kind of closing out time. I definitely am willing to run this past 1 o'clock mountain, but I don't know if folks have hard stops they need to get back to work or do things. So I wanted to kind of transition a little bit, and I still, James, want to hear back from you a little bit as well. But I think I'm looking for, Trevor, a speaker for next month, as well as kind of setting up a longer term schedule for the rest of the year for presenters. So if that's something that you'd like to maybe even work with me and maybe put together some content around and facilitate a discussion around that, I think that would be that'd be a very worthwhile topic for us to explore.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, we'll take a conversation offline and talk a little bit more about what you're looking for.
Yeah, I see some chats coming in on people needing to jump. So just real quick, I'm going to bring my deck back up, and just wanted to share a couple of announcements as we go forward into finishing out the year and into 2021. So just real quick, I do have a placeholder date for next month's meeting. I've picked Tuesday, January 19th. And again, topic speaker TBD. So if anyone's interested in presenting on any of the things we've talked about today, or has another topic that we think would be worthwhile to share with the group, please let me know, and I'll work to get that set up and see what we can do to have more practitioner level presentations. Like I said, we've had some really fantastic presentations these last few months from subject matter experts in a lot of areas. And I've got my link to my YouTube channel here posted. So if you're interested in seeing those recordings, those are out there, and there's some really good information. Last month, I mentioned from Greg Sanker, who is our presenter on change enablement. They've got a blog and a YouTube channel called Keep the Learning On, which is also worth paying attention to and exploring. And they do meetings every Friday morning. So if you're interested in another opportunity to continually learn and improve, I've got that link here. And then the final call out that I ask for all of you is to please help us continue to grow the group. So if you know of other folks that would be interested in participating and can get good information out of being here, then I definitely encourage you to share. We've got a lot of people in both our meetup and our LinkedIn group now, probably over 200 in each one. So part of what I'm going to work on is trying to reach out to some of those folks individually that used to be part of the group and haven't been in a while. But if we can continue to grow, I think it would be fantastic to continue to have the opportunity to expand the audience. And then final piece here, and I'll make sure everybody has an opportunity to get this presentation. I'm looking at setting up a couple of classes from both my own personal business standpoint. I'm looking at setting up a Devops Leadership class as well as a Value Stream Mapping Fundamentals class in Q1, if anyone's interested in those. And then ITSM Academy training opportunities I have listed here. I'm teaching their digital and IT strategy class February 23rd, but they're also doing a foundation class and an Essence of Experience class in January. And if you're interested in attending any of those through ITSM Academy, I have a 15% discount code for those. So more to come. I'm definitely looking at what I can do to put things together for going into this next year from both the contract training, but also setting up some of my own classes and again, digging back in on any corporate trainings that people are interested in as well. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing that, but I just want to make sure those announcements were there. And if you are looking for any more information on those links or taking a look at our past recordings, definitely let me know. So if folks have to jump here, I know we've lost a couple of people here with the top of the hour, but appreciate all of you being here, and we'll stick around and keep running if folks can stick around just a little bit longer. So thanks for being here. James, I want to come back to you and did give you a chance to answer the question. Do you have anything from looking at 2021 that you're personally interested in exploring or learning more about?
Yeah, no, I think more of the self-help world, if you will, from the aspect of trying to help enable my customers get more into this remote world. I think the more that they get more remote with their user base, their customer base, however you want to look at it, because I work with different industries. The more for self-help, chatbot, those kind of AI technologies, if you will, not that they're not true AI yet, but that's kind of the area that I've been getting bigger into and hope to, very excited about, get more in depth and see that it's going to be much of a bigger trend as 2021 starts off. So.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I know prior to us going into COVID mode and seeing a lot of our in-person conferences being scheduled virtually or even being postponed, I know that the Pink conference was essentially canceled for 2021 because that's normally in February in Vegas. Mm-hmm. They were actually going to have that be their theme this next year, was around AI and machine learning and some of those pieces. So I do agree with you from that standpoint that is really starting to become more and more of a focus point for.
Well, and that's the trend I see with my clients' ask right now too. So it's definitely becoming more fact than fiction. So.
Yeah. So I'm kind of disappointed in a way that got canceled, because that would have been an interesting conference to go into learning more about those things. And I
probably would have went.
That's probably backwards for me, James, because I typically go to those conferences and avoid a lot of the vendor and tool and the different presentations. I'll stop by and see the ones that I know, but it's almost like if I focus there, it's almost like information overload to try and absorb all that, unless I have a specific need to seek out a tool or to learn something specific. But I was actually thinking, I've been exposed so much now on the ITIL 4 side and have a pretty good handle on the trends and the best practices now, to where I was actually really interested to kind of flip my thinking and dig into some of those aspects in more detail this next year. So that's definitely on the list for me too, to learn more about where those things are and where they're headed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. Joni, how about you?
Yeah, I'm interested in the AI portion of it too. Just watching and learning. Anything I can learn and gain from that would be fantastic.
Yeah, any specific area as far as, I know you're focused on change, are there some opportunities from, broadening that out or looking at what your organization's wanting to do in that space?
Yeah, I mean, the organization that I'm currently engaged with is we're just bringing on PMO. We're now talking problem management and what they can gain from problem management, as opposed to just running change management and the basics, So one of the steps that we're going to look at is problem management, how to engage with problem management and look backward into what's happening in the environment, where we're bleeding, and then how can we take that forward and improve it. Along with that, again, building out the faster, better, quicker, but also, how do we build things in such a manner that we're actually enabling ourselves to create value that will give us the feedback that we need in order to improve. So those are some big things that I'm trying to drive forward with them is, hey, if you did this, then you would have this to look at, touch, feel, kick around and see, oh, I like it this way. No, I don't like it this way. This is why we're doing this, or maybe this needs to improve, or maybe this needs to be, gotten rid of, and let's step into the future. So a lot of different things. I'm kind of starting in the basement with this, sad to say, but it's building it up and trying to show them some better ways to go forward with their data.
Yeah. One of the things that I've noticed, and this has kind of been me broadening out my view of what the resources are with ITIL 4, is now that I've been through all the official certifications and classes, I'm digging in more into the practice guides.
Yeah.
And Michael, it's probably been more than a year for sure since you guys did your class, but is a part of either looking at opportunities for your organization to subscribe to the Axelos My ITIL site, or if you guys come around and do another class, you'll get access again to that for another year. Those practice guides are really talking about a lot of these aspects, like if you read the service desk practice guide, talking about where some of those trends are headed and kind of the considerations and the balancing aspects of what makes sense to drive toward more of a self-help, automation perspective versus trying to free up your resources to where you really do still have things that AI can't do, right? You have things that are more complex that require that human touch, or if something is an experience issue, kind of bringing in the experience parts that Joe was talking about. Obviously, people aren't going to want to talk to a machine at that point yet. They're not going to want to figure it out for themselves. They're going to want to talk to a person. So there's some interesting considerations. That's just one example that I thought of based on what you're saying, Joni, as far as, these practice guides are out there. ITIL 4 introduces 34 practices. I will say, in having skimmed through most of them at a high level, some are better than others. Greg Sankers and his Change Enablement guide is awesome. That's an example of a really good one. Yeah. But they're all out there. And the information that's in those is in a much deeper state than what you get compared to when we were in ITIL v3, right? In ITIL v3, it was all about processes, and the process information was written into each of the life cycle phase publications. Now the publications allude to the practices a little bit, but in every single book now they say refer to the practice guide for more detailed information, and that detailed information I think is still yet to really be utilized and uncovered by a lot of organizations. So that's one other thought that I have is kind of looking forward into this next year, is digging into those practice guides and looking where you can adopt and adapt some of that guidance. And then one of the things I'm interested in learning more about is the full fact of doing it that way was to make them more modular. So they should be getting updated on a regular basis because they aren't written in stone in a book. They are modular. People who are the authors and the contributors can go in as ways of working continue to change and improve, or as we move into some of these trends, like looking more at customer experience, more design thinking, more enterprise service management. To your point, Trevor, I think that those practice guides are going to continue to reflect some of those pieces, which I think is a really nice opportunity. So that's another thing that I've been thinking about. Mm-hmm. So if you have access to those, take advantage of that. If you don't, it's definitely worth, I think, looking at investing in that. Or again, I know for your case in particular, Michael, with taking a look at another class at some point, that'll enable you to have access to those and then download it, right?
Yeah.
Take advantage of that. All right, so I've been facilitating and talking, and we still can continue to go forward with a little bit longer. Is there any questions that any of you want to ask each other as you've heard your report outs, or want to dig into a little bit more before we close out for the day? Anything anyone wants to ask each other or share?
You're calling us on the carpet, Jeff.
Yeah, just figure I'm doing all the talking here. I want to definitely give everybody else a chance to interact and share and ask questions if anybody has anything they want to talk about.
No, that the change, the gentleman who spoke at the last meeting about change, I thought he did an excellent job. That was like a, one reason I don't speak up in the meetings is like I'm new to ITSM, right? And so you have all these people with a lot of expertise, a lot of experience. I'm kind of like, I'm just going to lurk here in the corner for a bit and then I'll bail out. So this was a great forum to just kind of chat and in more general, right? And just get to know. So I like the format. I don't have anything specific to talk about with the other attendees or anything like that. I just wanted to throw that out there that I liked this format. So
yeah, I appreciate the feedback on it, Michael. And I do intend to do more of these as we go forward into this next year. So that validates that. I think what I'd like to try and do kind of from a quarterly cadence perspective is to have some type of Greg Sanker, Rayanne Bruno, type of person come in and be more of that subject matter expertise and give people a good overview of some of the things that we can still all learn from, myself included.
Yeah.
Have a practitioner level presentation for another month of the quarter, to have one of you and the audience come in and talk about what's going on in my organization. What are we working on? What have we learned? What worked? What didn't work? Share that with everybody else and have some discussions around that. And then
that'd be good.
Third month be like what we did today. Have more open dialogue, more feedback type of stuff. I do want to encourage as we kind of kick off the next year, and that's part of why I need to probably get a more official YouTube channel, just not my own personal channel at some point, but I want to at least get those recordings posted out there so people can go back and see them and use them as a resource. And then that can potentially drive some further discussions as well. So yeah, that's good feedback. I appreciate that. And I definitely intend to kind of break things up a little bit more so that it's not just one type of presentation all the time.
Yeah.
But when we open it virtually, I also was like, hey, I've got some great contacts I've made over this last year that I want to see if I can call on them to come in and present to the group. And I think those were really all well done. And that feedback's appreciated for them too.
Yeah, I like this form. I think that's a very good idea of yours to break it up, right? And have that, if you're having a monthly meeting, different format in each month and stuff, keep people on their toes too.
Yeah.
Encourage participation and stuff. So
yeah, thanks.
It also feeds more information.
Yeah, I liked it. So I don't know if it was that presentation or I read somewhere. So this is just a random comment, but I was reading, I learned, or it was either that presentation or I read something. But anyway, they were talking about building in resilience, but they used like anti-fragility, right, in the change process. And Joni made me think of this. And like, we are classic change. We are like top down, you will do these things and you will not hurt production and you will da-da-da-da-da. And the shift is to streamline it, right, and have constantly hit production. But because of the change has been like boiled down to a very small release, and it's very easy to deploy and very easy to deploy to roll back, right, via the pipeline. If you're going to do a CI/CD type development situation, then it doesn't matter. And you're building anti-fragility or resilient, I just call it resilience, right, into your system. And you can just plow away. You can just tag, prod all you want with the change, and change becomes more streamlined, right? And I noticed that with the Paris release of ServiceNow, to go into a specific product for a moment, we had a highly customized change application. So we had a person who did all this custom work, custom code to the tables, and it fit Blue Cross's process to a T. All clunky and weird as it was, that's exactly what Blue Cross wanted, I suppose. And we basically lifted and shifted that into a custom app because ServiceNow streamlined the change management application to more marry up or match kind of that idea of changes are accelerating, right? And so that I remember that diagram where he had like number of changes in the volume of changes increase, but the impact of those changes goes down, right? So you kind of had that X on his graph. You remember that? And I was just thinking that is exactly right. That's a theme I'm seeing is they're trying to accelerate and automate, and some of these tools like self-service, AI, machine learning, all that. And we're seeing more and more vendors productize that. So we are we're not an IT a company, right? We're an insurance company. So we're basically a payer and we pay claims. But what's great is these larger companies, especially with their SaaS offerings, are offering things like virtual bots. And you have to assign a person to help train them, but they can just kind of go. You don't have to do that development all on your own and have that expertise in house, right? So I just thought that was kind of a interesting trend, I guess.
Yeah.
Random comments from Mike here.
One of the interesting classes that Jeff encouraged me to take was the digital and IT strategy class. That one, I'll tell you that the exam for it's a bear, but it was a really interesting class. It talks about VUCA, which is the I can't remember the acronym now without looking at it.
Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
Yeah, and that's what you're talking to, Michael. Basically taking a look at can we do this? Do we have the ability to do this? It's taking those incremental steps, tying in Agile, tying in the DevOps portion of the world. ITIL, like Jeff was saying, has been so regimented in the past, process driven, but it's never, when I first took on ITIL, and I'm a big ITIL believer, sorry guys. I drank the Kool-Aid right at the beginning, and I thought you had to have everything in its place or you're going to be in big trouble. And then, it really threw me for a loop when they said, no, we're just talking about, hey, if you did this and maybe try this, and there's a little this in there. And so, Jeff and I went round and round on that one, and I'm like, nah, it doesn't make any sense. But this has really, from a change management perspective, that was where I was heavy in my career in the beginning, working under Merrill Lynch, doing change management. And I thought that there was a regimented way to do everything. And so a lot of older change managers, I think, struggle with the Agile / DevOps workflow of this. But, being able to create that workflow that shows those incremental little steps and changes that you're going to make increases that the VUCA for you. It increases the ability to push out changes quicker, faster, better, and enable you to roll back little pieces of it if you have to that are non-impacting. So, I mean, big changes are afoot, and I think they're good changes coming in the industry. And everybody thinks, well, incremental is going to slow me down. No, it's not. It's amazing.
Constant incremental improvements.
Yeah. It's amazing how much faster.
Yeah. You often look at, as an organization, I think it's easy to look at how far you have to go versus how far you've come, right? So, because I was talking to just people, and I'm like, we're working on this, working on that. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's glacial, but for them, they're like, holy cow, like you guys are flying. And I was like, oh, I mean, part of that is perspective, right? I guess. So when you're in the thick of it, it's often hard to see like these big trends and things that are moving fast. I think of fast as like some startup where they're just, what was Facebook's motto? Move fast, break stuff, right? Like for me, or Netflix, Chaos Monkey or whatever. I'm like, well, that's like cutting edge or whatever. Like that's like super, super mature, thousands of commits a day or an hour at some of these organizations. I'm like, well, how the hell do you do that? We're doing like 12 a week, maybe, you know what I mean? But I think if you kind of back up and take the broader view, like we are making improvements as an organization, because especially at Blue Cross, where we've been so kind of steady as she goes for so many years, really kind of trying to change that and pick. We have some very powerful leaders kind of just pulling us along, kicking and screaming into CI/CD, right? And DevOps. And by force of sheer will, right? They're like imposing their will upon us. But it's totally working. I'm like, well, this sucks, but actually it's kind of cool because I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I can, through my very novice understanding, right? But I can see kind of this ITSM or this CI/CD or whatever you want to call it, light at the other end. I'm like, well, that'll be cool because we're at least we've taken a step. We're on our journey, right? So.
Yeah, that's a good word for it, journey.
Yeah.
Yep, that's great. And I could spend a lot of time talking about some of the things you're just relating back to, Michael, but change enablement does really shift its focus a lot in a DevOps world, right? It's more assessing how many standard changes can I produce that don't require any authorization other than just documenting that you're making the change in case something breaks.
Yeah.
You get to the point to where what is the health of my CI/CD pipeline is a considering factor. And then I'm peer reviewing, I'm doing standard changes, I'm taking a look at, not a one size fits all approach for everything, but I really look at what is unique that I need to assess risk around. What's something that I've never done before? It's new versus the stuff that's consistent, repeatable, and we've done it a million times and we don't need to authorize it, right? It's a shift in thinking from that perspective.
Yeah, I want the release meeting to be focused on those really big things, those big challenging, like we're going to upgrade our claims adjudication platform. Let's spend 2 hours talking about it. Because right now it's like, you didn't dot the I or you didn't cross the T.
Exactly.
It's going back. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is frankly a waste of time. And I think if you have a more mature DevOps CI/CD pipeline type thing built out, a lot of the audit requirements for us were heavily audited. I mean, the SOX and MARS and SOC type 1, SOC type 2. Anyway, just and BCBSA and FEP. And anyway, all these audits, you could meet those requirements through those tools, right? It's all automated. Like I can see the code was peer reviewed. I can see it was checked in. I can see the comments in the commit. There's a full audit trail of it, right? It went to this environment. It existed in dev or test or dev, then test, then prod, right? And it was all automated, and you can get more and more velocity in your deployments, right? Because like I said, right now we're doing like I said, 12 a week, and that really feels like we're cooking.
Yeah, I look at it. I mean, and that goes back to your point, Michael, of looking at the change management. And I see, I've got 5 different avenues into my change management. You get your standard, normal, moderate, and high. Then you've got your emergency changes. You've got your DevOps. So a lot of different avenues. And I see those as all these different pipelines that are coming in through change. But in all sense, in all sanity check, right? The only ones that really I'm looking at as a change manager with the cab, the E-cab is anything that's
changes
or anything that's going to be, lighting up the Christmas tree, as it were. Right? Anything that's moderate or high that needs to have eyes on the glass, at it saying, oh yeah, I like this. No, I don't. It all boils back to the business. What's good for the business? Is it going to impact the business? What, why, and how? Yeah.
Where do you want to spend your time? Do you want to spend it on these little low priority, low risk changes, or do you want to focus on the big stuff that could actually?
Well, it's a heavy change for a lot of change managers today, because they're going from that control to enable. Right. Yeah. The keyword is changing to enable. We're not there to go, no, you're not doing that.
Right.
Stop. Much as I'd like to have a little baseball bat and whack people all the time, but
well, and it's an illusion of control anyway at Blue Cross, because the change manager, we get beat up by audit, and then
that is true control.
We don't really have any control. Audit's like, why'd you let this go through? Well, because I literally can't stop them. So, it's not my fault they didn't follow our policy. We trained them. You know what I mean? And so enablement, I think it's just a better, instead of trying to steer the ship, you go with the flow, kind of direct the stream, I guess, for analogies, right? I think.
You are, but you still have those. I mean, on the back end of it, there are controls. It's not
a free for all.
Yeah, right. It's change manager making those decisions, right? This goes up to upper management. They're part of the cab. They're part of the E-cab. They're the ones really pushing the button, right? Yeah. The change manager in the past has been given that authority to say yay or nay. Right. It's it's shifting again. It's looking at the business and saying, oh, hey, this is going to impact you. You need to be in there.
Well, it shifts accountability onto the change manager, who may or may not have the authority to stop it. And I think the accountability needs to be with the leaders authorizing stuff. you know, because we've built into our release process a business approval now. And the business approver is always the person who can accept the change. Like, this was provided and it works as designed and implemented correctly and effectively, and I like it.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be, you know, I think a lot of companies are like, I'm going to get must have a director, must have a manager or whatever. And really it's like, no, must have expertise of who author, you know, that's fine. You do need a director or a sponsor, but I really need to know, did it work?
Well,
You
yeah,
know?
that's your second level test.
Yeah. So like, are you good with it? Because this is what's going, you know, I like that idea better.
Well, yeah, and you could always have somebody outside of the person who's pushing the button be the tester, right?
Right. Yeah.
That way you're not going to have that person. Yeah, it passed. It passed.
Mm-hmm.
Be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And
Jeff, I've got to run.
yeah, I was just going to say, I don't want to keep anybody longer than they need to. It's great to see everybody. I hope everybody has a terrific Christmas holiday and a great end of the year, and look forward to engaging next month and interacting with all of you going forward. So if you need to run, understand. If you need to get back to work, like I said, appreciate all of you being here and supporting the group, and hopefully we can continue to help it continue to grow and prosper into this next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always thanks.
See everybody. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Take
See
care.
you, Trevor.
Thanks.
Here. Bye, guys.
We went down a change rabbit hole there.
It's okay. Like I said, I could talk about this stuff all the time just for fun.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing too, Michael, to think about, and this is kind of probably where your leaders and your DevOps teams are pushing, I'm assuming, is it really does become an environment in a technology aspect of the maturity too, right? If you can do, you know, feature toggling and move things into production and decouple the deployment part from release, right? That's a big step. If you can do A/B or blue-green environments and do proof of concepts and you know, allow features that are being deployed to be visible and usable by a certain subset of your user base and get their feedback, right? Those types of things, as you work through your environment maturity, can then become part of your change process. Is how are we intending, and this is actually, this is kind of me getting my consulting hat on, this is all release planning. It's not even change. This is release now that we're really talking about. What's the plan for doing the release? You get everybody, including all of your stakeholders, including your service desk and your operations people, involved in your release planning. You broaden the scope of that. You get everybody to understand what is the plan. The plan won't be what actually happens, but at least you have an intention of this is what it's supposed to look like.
Right.
And then you manage the deltas. You manage the exceptions, but everybody knows going in on what was promised to the customer or to the users. This is when it's intended to be done. Here's who's doing what. And then you execute, and then it comes back to change management at the end and says, did we do all the things we planned? Or what didn't we do? And then you assess the risk on that as a final deployment gate versus looking at it as a deployment gate, and it's the first time anybody's looked at it.
Right.
Right. That's a huge change in philosophy and context and thinking for a lot of organizations. And if you're not doing release planning and you expect change to cover all those gaps, that's not even what change is for. Change is there to assess risk and to put things on a schedule and then ultimately be an authorization decision if it makes sense.
Yeah.
Some of those things have no business going to a cab and can be standard changes. Some of those things don't belong at the cab and really are portfolio changes that belong above the cab.
Yeah.
And so that's the thinking there too, is some things show up at cab that have no business being there because they're bigger than the bread box, so to speak. They shouldn't be authorized by a cab. So
we do a lot of sprint planning, but I think the kind of, in my mind, like from what you're describing, it's like there should be the other half of that really is the release planning.
That needs to happen at a bigger level.
We have a release management process, but we don't do anything like what you're saying. But that sounds like a very like kind of light bulbs going off. Like, why the hell aren't we doing that? That totally seems obvious and self-evident. Makes sense. Like, damn it.
Yeah, I've helped a couple of organizations kick that off and do release planning what I consider to be closer to the right way. I don't want to say it's 100% the right way because it always needs to continually improve and adopt, but it's at least an opportunity to get people connected. And the connective tissue that's missing from a lot of functional silos that I don't need to worry about operations or service desk or production until we get there. Well, no,
Right.
they can't add any value to you. And if they catch something that you missed, and then your leadership pushes the change through anyway, to your point earlier, because it's got to hit the date for the customer. And if it breaks, we'll pick up the pieces afterwards type of approach, right? Then you're asking for trouble. You can avoid all that if you're smarter and you're not doing any more work. You're just resequencing when it happens. That's all it is. So, well, yeah, I'm glad I gave you a light bulb idea there, Michael. So
yeah.
You'll have to stay in touch with me and let me know how that goes, or if you have any other need to actually dig into improving around that area. And if I can help, let me know for sure.
I will. They took off the training budget away. It has to go through Chuck. So I had.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, you can still do it. You just have to like yet another hoop.
Yeah.
To jump through. But I know that I can get a couple people who want to go to a course. I'm going to just send them, right? I'll probably attend a course of yours or two.
Yeah.
But the overarching strategy kind of like it didn't work out. So what I want to do is build a nucleus of people that are who want to implement change and who are interested in continuous improvement, and then skill them up, and then let them, like if they find success in it, let them propagate it, right? Sandy Dunn, she's in security. I randomly was talking to her and she was totally like blown out of the water, eyes wide open. She said, I attended that ITIL 4 class. She's like, that was like totally life-changing. She's like, I used to just be in my little silo of security. I didn't really care about anybody else. And she's like, now I'm understanding this whole, there's like, more to it. And she's she's a very intelligent person, right?
Yeah. She
just was so narrowly focused. And I just kind of invited her just because I thought, I thought she would come, and I thought she would, benefit from it in a very general sense. I didn't expect her to give such like high praise, right? You know what I mean? And think so highly of it. So I want to double down on find some more of those people in leadership in IT. That's kind of my thinking, is like, if I can get a couple more good people and then they get a couple more good people, right? Then we'll just go at it that way. Because if nothing is happening from the top down with respect to that, but like if I could grab, like a CI/CD conversation, if I could get you to come and talk at a coffee talk or something. I think you came and talked to leaders, but that didn't.
Yeah, it didn't really, the appetite for it wasn't there. It seemed like Chuck didn't even know we were supposed to be there until it was like, who are you guys?
Yeah, that totally, I didn't like that. Yeah, that was like super awkward. So, but if I could do something more targeted or focused, I think that might be better. So that's kind of, I just don't, it's like, I have my day job. So it's just, I do a little bit. And then after this, so this is you have all of my attention. Oh, this is great. And then I'm going to spin around and go back to work, and I'll be on to the next fire or whatever. So it'll be like, might be days or weeks before I circle back.
No, understood.
I'm interested.
Yeah, no, whenever you're ready. What I was going to say is I had Jake contact me. He attended,
Jake Barnes.
He attended ITIL 4 class that Joni and I co-taught in downtown Boise last year. And he was interested in pursuing the high velocity IT class, it sounded like. So that would be a good one to potentially take a look at for you guys, given everything you've been talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
The DITS class would be a good one too, Michael, because it paints a better picture of IT strategy, digital and IT strategy, and how you're going to move forward.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, it's, it's a tough class, but it's a really good class.
I think even the change enablement, like that presentation, if I could show that to people, and because like it was pulling teeth to implement that, we had to implement the new change, right? It was taking the developer 80 hours of testing every time we had an upgrade. It was just becoming untenable. And then they changed everything about it, right? And we really took the process as is, and
I thought you went back to the box.
We did on change. We added release management. We wrote our own release management application, and we took all the weird Blue Cross crap and shoved it in there. And we tried to put, spit on a rag and try and polish it a bit, but it was just doing that. So basically, hey, we're not radically changing things. We're changing a couple processes and making some improvements. That was like pulling teeth. Like, you can't even believe how much resistance there was. But if the people saw where we're trying to go with change enablement, I think that would be, you might have more luck or success.
Yeah.
Because then, like Jake is a great champion at work, right? He's a product owner, he's a scrum master, he does a fantastic job. So just trying to find more people like that to participate and kind of like, he can have conversations with developers that I'm not going to have and say, no, we're actually doing a good thing, and there's like light at the end of the tunnel. I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah. Well, feel free, Michael, to utilize the recording if you want to
Okay.
show that in a brown bag or something, or if you want me
Sure.
to come in and introduce it and then we can all watch it together and talk about it. I'd be happy
Okay.
to do something like that if
Okay.
that would be helpful.
Who was it? John Sorensen had structured agile consultants come in.
Okay.
About the same, it was goal setting or something like that, or planning, and just the big bang approach ain't working. So I think more of, that's why I'm thinking the grassroots, brown bag, interested parties, let them tell a friend. I think we might have more success that way.
Yeah, at least in the short term, it sounds like,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Right.
ultimately, to Joni's point, digital IT strategy is a leadership class. So the heavy lifting that it would take probably, and you'd probably need to start with Chuck and his front line, -1s would be, okay, you need ITIL 4 as a prerequisite. So we need to get you in that and convince them at that level. But for the purpose of really digging into the leadership aspects, digital IT strategy is about, as Joni mentioned, it's about living in a VUCA environment. It's about what do we need to do to deal with the fact that our lives as an organization and as an IT group are constantly being disrupted.
Right.
Whether that's industry, whether that's market, whether that's at an operational excellence perspective or more from a customer perspective, there's considerations in each of those areas that you need to be able to react to. And so the class is giving you models and considerations based on where you find yourself. And first of all, how to evaluate that, but then what do I do about it? And what do I need from a leadership perspective? What do I need from a risk management perspective? What do I need to organize around? And it's very experiential. It's basically, the whole class is a lot of content, to Joni's point, that's very in depth, but it's also, the class is actually workshop based, and you do a scenario based exercise throughout the class. And so it can, if I teach it as a public class, it's 3 crazy days or 5 crazy half days. If I do it from a customized perspective as an intact team training, I can play with that however I want. It still has to be a certification class, but I could break out the workshop and do it over more time, do a little bit more specific scenario-based discussions in context of the organization. And that's actually, I didn't talk about it today, but that's actually one of the things that I think is going to be what really gets ITIL 4 more accepted, based off of people thinking they know what it is compared to what it actually is now. You get some of that in foundation, but not really. You don't get that until you see the dynamic of what we're really talking about. Is it's much more of a value framework and a leadership framework now than a process framework. The processes are still there, but it's the bigger picture part of that now that's been added on to it that didn't used to be there. So that's the type of discussion that I think, if you feel like we can get some grassroots momentum started and then build up to that, then I could probably come in, and not to, do another big consultant, thing like what it sounds like John tried to do.
Yeah.
But more of an approach of top-down leadership. Let's take a look at how this can help your organization move forward and actually define a strategy, define a vision, get everybody on the same page and moving in the same direction, and understand what it is going to take to do that successfully, right? That's a little bit of a different approach, I think, than just coming in and trying to do a vision to measurements exercise, or trying to, build around a particular framework. So we can talk more about that, but that's kind of where my head would be at, to where we could potentially help move things forward for what you're trying to do.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool. And James, it's good to be working with you. It's nice to see you here. James, I've been helping FMX out with some small, we've got 2 configuration management and then change management kind of redos, rebuilds, trying to integrate practices and set organizations up so then they can use the tool more successfully. So
Yeah, it's been helpful because instead of us having to do that design job and have them trust us more, not that they shouldn't trust us, but we're the technical side, and Jeff is more of the practitioner, process guy, the guy who lives and breathes it more than we do, and so it's been very helpful to have him do those sessions. Definitely, at least from what I've been hearing. I haven't had the opportunity or the pleasure of following up from you from a design session yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
Those are coming.
So,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, into next year for sure. So
yeah,
some good stuff. Configuration management's the one I kicked off today with a client, and kind of the same thing.
Was that Creighton?
No, Creighton's coming up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This was Integer. So
Oh, yep.
So those are coming, and kind of what you were talking about too, Michael, right? It's the heart of everything. If it's an information source, it's risk assessment, it's impact analysis. If you don't have your services defined, it can be the leading edge to actually say, what do we group these things under with our application suites and modules and our servers and our databases, right?
Yeah.
It's really important to get that established. So it's going to be
Yeah.
some fun stuff to work on at a more tactical level for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And there's right ways and wrong ways to approach it. Everybody who goes out and just auto discovers everything on their network through the tool suite or through SolarWinds or whatever, yeah, it's great. But then what do I do with it?
Yep.
Right?
That's always
How
the
do I
question.
organize it? It's too much.
Yeah.
Even asset management, right? You can start off with asset management and have all of your financial assets and your attributes figured out for various types of asset classes, but you don't need all that to do configuration management. You need to figure out what's the subset of that and pick a service or pick an application suite and build down and figure out what, then include the things as you go forward and iterate and improve, versus try and just capture everything that I can have everybody on my team possibly want to know. And monitoring and event management is the same thing, right? You don't just go turn on all your defaults. You go figure out, what do I actually need to get alerts for? What are my thresholds? And then turn those things on. So
yeah,
kind of the same deal. Anyway,
I would agree.
We could talk all day on all this stuff. It's fun. It's good to see all of you. It's been too long. So
Hi, you have a helper.
You do?
I do. She just walked in. So
oh, stranger danger.
Right. Yeah, the
joys of working now.
Working from home.
Yep, we have our kiddos now.
Yeah, your work partner.
That's fine.
Good.
So I didn't talk about that as what has changed, but yes, that has actually been a big change for me, is having the kids more at home. So
yeah.
Where before I didn't have them when I was working from home. So
yeah.
Mine's the cat. The cat just jumps up in front of my screen all the time. It's morning if I don't feed him.
Yeah.
I have a dog that he eats at 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. and in the afternoon he starts barking like at 3, I don't know, 3 usually, but maybe 3:30. He just can't wait, right? Anyway, we're all working from home. We've all got weird situations, a cat, a dog, children coming in. That's not weird, but you know what I mean, like non-standard things. And the dog, I was in some meeting at I don't know, 1 or 2, I think change management thereabouts, and I think somebody came to the door and the dog started barking, and somebody's like, "Hey Mike, it's not 3 or 4, why is the dog barking?" And I just thought it was funny. It's just kind of, I think it humanizes things, because I see that too, whatever the case may be, and I'm like, that's 100% fine, man. It's like totally, like you know what I mean. I had a delivery person, nobody's home. I had to hang on, I got to go get this delivery. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's just life in 2020, right?
It is. Yeah, no, and it's kind of funny because I remember previous years somebody'd have a dog barking or something background, you kind of get annoyed. I was like, come on, be professional, deal with the situation. And now it's like, no, it's just fine. Kids walk in, fine, pet walks in, fine, no big deal.
Totally
You get it.
Right. Yep.
Oh yeah.
So I'm actually glad for some of that aspect of things. It's more work-life balance and more just the fact that we're humans.
Yeah.
Right. Did you see there's a, this is totally not related to anything, just only 2020 made me think about it. I saw a Match, Match, the dating app or whatever. They had a commercial. It's got the devil. He's hanging out, and I guess he's using Match, and then it doesn't show what he's doing. He's like, oh, and he gets all excited, and he meets somebody, and he's like, I love everything you do. Da 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 da. And the woman's like, you can call me 2020. And it was just such a good commercial.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh yeah, you got to keep your eye out for it. It's very funny.
That is funny.
Well done. So 2020.
I tried to twist Ryan Holzer's arm into being here today, and he couldn't come. But there's a funny story with related to that too, with the meetup. We were first moving over to Meetup for scheduling these meetings.
I remember
He was working on the administration of that, and he accidentally went to the Meet Me site instead of
Oh,
Meetup site. And so he signed up and registered his email and did all this stuff. And all of a sudden he starts getting these emails popping in of all these
Trained emails.
matches
Yeah,
and dates.
that's-
He's like, what the heck is this?
yeah.
And he figured it out. I was like, oops, I registered at the wrong place. I thought that was pretty funny. Kind of reminded me of that, Michael,
Yeah,
with that whole thing.
that is funny.
All right, kids, I gotta run.
Yeah,
Okay.
same here.
Great to see
Bye.
everyone. Have
Yep.
a great rest of the month and year, and look forward to seeing everyone again soon.
You guys have a great holiday celebration,
Merry-
whatever you celebrate. So
Yeah, you too as well.
yeah,
All right.
thanks guys.
Thanks everyone.
Jeff, for
Take
doing
care.
this. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.